So how do they get to this point? How do they get to the area where that bacteria is? How do they know where to go? So they're attracted by inflammation. So when the blood vessels get larger in that area, they're attracted to that area. So this next slide goes into a little bit more detail, so it's for honors only. So CP and academic, you can just skip past this. So as I said, it's a macrophage. A type is called a phagocyte. So phagocytosis is going to be the process of actually digesting and breaking down the invader. So in this case, we have a pathogen. There's the receptors on the phagocyte. It's going to interact with the pathogen. It says, oh no, this is not self. We need to destroy this. This should not be in the body. So then it's going to wrap around the pathogen, bring it in. It's going to create like that cell wall type thing, which is called a phagosome. And then it's, as I said, it's going to have the digestive enzymes that are going to slowly break down that invader. So next, the role of inflammation. So inflammation is signaled by what are called mast cells. So when you have something that is foreign in the body, the mast cells are a type of white blood cell that release histamine. So when they release histamine, it's going to cause that area to collect fluids and cause the capillaries in that area to dilate. So it's going to bring more blood flow to that area, which is very important because we want that white blood cells in that area. To relate this back to the lymphatic system, so the lymph is going to be released as close as possible to the area where these mast cells are releasing this signal that we need help to get rid of this invader. The role of the fever. So fever, as I said, it's going to destroy the invader, so the bacteria and viruses. So if you have a low fever, some doctors recommend just letting it run its course, because if the fever is basically your immune system attacking the invaders. So if you take something like aspirin or ibuprofen to lower that temperature, you're basically allowing the bacteria and virus to keep reproducing and not die off. So it's important to have a fever and basically kill off those invaders. If the temperature does become too high, so above 103, 104, then it does become dangerous to your health, and obviously taking medication is important. So this is showing an example of how the immune system works. So if you were to get a splinter, there's bacteria on that splinter that is now in the body. So what's going to happen is those damaged cells in that area are going to release chemicals that stimulate the mast cells. So the mast cells then release histamine. That histamine is going to dilate the blood vessels in that area to increase blood flow, which is then going to increase the amount of white blood cells from the lymph that are then going to ingest those bacteria or the invaders. So the more damage to the area, the more chemicals that are released, the more dilation, the more white blood cells that you're going to have in that area. So why are nonspecific defenses not enough? So if you think about a certain type of sickness, so let's think of back when I had H1N1, for example. My body's immune system built up immunity towards that. So if I came into contact with H1N1 again, I would fight it off so much easier because my body does not have to think about it. The first time it came into contact, my body had a full-blown attack. It's like, oh my gosh, what is this? Why is it in the body? How did it get in here? What is it? Is it good? Is it bad? It had to try to figure out all these things before it can fight it off. But once it remembers that thing, so the second time I would come into contact with H1N1, my body would be like, oh, H1N1, bad, get rid of it. It wouldn't have to think about if it's good, if it's bad, if it should be there, if it shouldn't be there. It just needs to get rid of it now. So that's why it's so important to have specific defenses and not just non-specific. So we're going to look at different types of specific immune response. So macrophages play another role. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But then we have T cells and B cells. So these are memory cells. So when you have a bacteria or a virus that comes in the body, these are going to remember that for the future so that you can fight it off faster. And then antibodies are going to fight off the invaders. So as I said, antibodies are going to be what helps to fight them off. So they're going to tag and destroy any invaders. Antibiotics, these are going to be different types of microbes that are toxic to the bacteria. So they help to fight off that infection. And then antigen, so this is going to be what recognizes self versus not self. So if you remember back to blood typing, so if you have the A antigen, that is yourself. B would be not self because A is yourself, B is not yourself. So I'm just going to review the immune response. There is more to this, but I'm going to save that for next time so I don't overwhelm you with too much vocab and material. So just quick review, if there is a splinter or something that gets into the skin, that's going to have bacteria on it, that's going to get into the body. So the cells are damaged in that area. They're going to release chemical signals to mast cells saying, hey, there's damage to this area. There's going to be invaders that are going to be able to get inside. So then we have this mast cell here. So this is going to release histamine. And the histamine is going to signal for other mast cells to come over, as well as for an immune response to start. So this is where you're going to start to see inflammation of the blood vessels. And since there's inflammation of the blood vessels, that makes more room for the macrophages. So then the macrophage is going to want to get rid of the invader. So if you remember, they're going to ingest. So all of the bacteria that is now getting into the body from this splinter is going to be ingested by the macrophage, and the digestive enzymes inside the macrophage are going to break it down into proteins. But as I said, we have that dilation occurring. So we're going to have more room, more blood flow, more macrophages that are able to come and destroy those invaders. So relating this back to the lymphatic system, the lymph nodes would have released lymph to release some of these white blood cells to be able to come and help with this immune response.